Evil is not always obvious. Sometimes it whispers in small, unnoticed actions. Other times it roars through cruelty that shocks the world. In today's video, we'll journey through the 7 levels of evil, exploring films that reveal the spectrum of darkness in human nature, from subtle ignorance to horrors that feel almost metaphysical. Each movie acts like a mirror, reflecting the uncomfortable truth. Evil isn't just out there, it can live inside all of us. Level 1. Ignorant evil. Evil done out of ignorance. The ancient philosopher Plato believed that no one does wrong willingly. He thought that if people truly understood what was good, they would always choose it. Evil, he argued, comes from not knowing any better. It's the darkness that exists because no light has ever been allowed in. The film Dogtooth, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos in 2009, shows us this level in its purest, most disturbing form. A father keeps his 3 adult children locked inside the family compound. He's created an entire false reality for them. He's taught them that cats are deadly monsters, that airplanes falling from the sky are normal, that the word see means armchair. These children have never seen the outside world. They don't even know it exists. The father believes he's protecting them. In his twisted mind, he's shielding them from corruption and danger. He's convinced himself that his prison is actually a paradise. His children perform strange rituals, compete in bizarre competitions, and live in complete submission to his invented reality. They don't rebel because they don't know there's anything to rebel against. This is evil wearing the mask of love. Evil that says, I'm doing this for your own good, while it suffocates you. The children in Dogtooth aren't bad people. They're victims of a controlled ignorance. They've been shaped by lies so complete that truth itself becomes impossible to recognize. When one of them finally glimpses the real world through a forbidden videotape, their entire reality shatters like glass. Plato said ignorance is the source of evil. But Dogtooth asks a darker question. What happens when ignorance isn't accidental but carefully constructed? When someone actively keeps others in the dark because knowledge threatens their power? This is evil hides behind walls and calls itself protection. But at least ignorant evil doesn't know what it's doing. Our next level does, and that's what makes it so much worse. Level 2. Justified evil. Evil that has convinced itself it was right all along. The philosopher Hannah Arendt spent her life studying this phenomenon. She called it self-justification, the human mind's terrifying ability to rationalize absolutely anything. The Act of Killing, released in 2012, is not just a documentary. It's a journey into the minds of men who committed genocide and never faced consequences. In Indonesia during the 1960s, over 1 million people were murdered in anti-communist purges. The killers weren't prosecuted. They weren't punished. Many became powerful, respected members of society. Director Joshua Oppenheimer did something unprecedented. He asked these men to reenact their murders, to stage them like scenes from their favorite movies, gangster films, westerns, musicals. And they agreed, eagerly, proudly. They demonstrated their killing techniques. They laughed about efficient ways to strangle someone with wire so the blood wouldn't stain the floor. They danced on rooftops where they'd tortured victims. One man, Anwar Congo, killed over 1,000 people with his own hands. He shows the camera his method: dancing, smiling, casual. He explains that they would watch American movies to lift their spirits before going out to kill. The movies made them feel like heroes, like cowboys, like the good guys. This is the most frightening form of evil. Not the evil that knows it's evil and revels in it, but the evil that genuinely believes it was necessary, justified, even heroic. These men convinced themselves they were saving their country, protecting their families, doing what had to be done. They created elaborate moral frameworks to support their actions. They built entire philosophies around their atrocities. Arendt understood that this is how real evil operates in the world, not through devils with horns, but through ordinary people who tell themselves comforting stories, who find reasons, who justify, who sleep soundly because they've convinced themselves they had no choice. But justified evil doesn't appear out of nowhere. It has to be taught, cultivated, grown like a poisonous plant, which brings us to level 3. Level 3. Institutional evil. Evil as a carefully designed system. The philosopher Michel Foucault studied how institutions discipline people, how they shape souls, how they create obedience through routine, ritual, and subtle punishment. Evil becomes embedded in the structure itself. Bernardo Bertolucci's masterpiece, The Conformist, from 1970, shows us how fascism doesn't spread through passionate ideology, but through the quiet desperation to belong, to fit in, to be normal. Marcello Clerici is a man haunted by his past, desperate to prove he's ordinary. He joins the fascist secret police, not because he believes in fascism, but because he wants to disappear into conformity. Marcello gets married to a conventional woman. He buys the right clothes. He says the right things. He accepts an assignment to assassinate his former professor, a dissident living in Paris. Not because he hates the professor, but because this is what normal people do. This is what the system requires. And Marcello wants nothing more than to be part of the system. Bertolucci films this descent into evil with stunning beauty, elegant architecture, perfect compositions. Everything looks ordered and civilized, but beneath the surface, Marcello is hollow. He's constructed an entire personality around conforming, around not standing out, around doing what's expected. The fascist system doesn't need true believers. It needs people afraid to be different. This is the banality of institutional evil. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic speeches or grand philosophies. It simply becomes the path of least resistance, the thing everyone else is doing, the price of admission to normal life. Foucault understood that power works most effectively when it makes compliance feel natural, when it makes rebellion feel like insanity. The Conformist shows us that fascism spreads not through ideology, but through conformity, through people who are terrified of being outsiders, through the human desire to belong twisted into a weapon. Marcello destroys others to construct his own normality. He participates in murder to prove he's ordinary, and the system never forces him. It simply makes conformity the only path that feels safe. This is evil you can't fight because it doesn't feel like evil. It feels like fitting in, like being practical, like doing what everyone else does. But there's another form of evil that's even more invisible, the evil of doing nothing at all. Level 4. Passive evil. The evil of silence, of looking away, of letting it happen. Hannah Arendt called this the banality of evil, the ordinary person who facilitates horror simply by not resisting it, by being a bystander, by following orders, by staying quiet. Funny Games, made by Michael Haneke in 1997, is designed to make you complicit. A family on vacation is taken hostage by 2 young men in white gloves. These men are polite, well-spoken. They play sadistic games with their victims. They make the family bet on whether they'll survive until morning. And they break the 4th wall. They look directly at you, the viewer. They wink. They ask what you think should happen next. One of the killers even rewinds the film when something doesn't go according to their plan. They control the narrative itself. And through all of this, Haneke is asking you a question. Why are you watching? Why are you sitting there, comfortable in your chair, consuming this family's torture as entertainment? What does that make you? This is passive evil. The evil of the audience. The evil of everyone who watches injustice and does nothing. Everyone who knows something terrible is happening and looks away. Everyone who says, "It's not my problem," or "There's nothing I can do," or "I don't want to get involved." Arendt studied Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi bureaucrat who organized the logistics of the Holocaust. He wasn't a monster. He was a middle manager. He filed papers. He followed procedures. He claimed he was just doing his job. His evil wasn't in passionate hatred, but in passive compliance, in the absence of thought, in the refusal to question. Funny Games forces you to recognize this evil in yourself. Every moment you continue watching is a moment you're choosing not to help. You're complicit. You're letting it happen. And that makes you part of the machinery of evil. But what happens when evil stops being passive and becomes a calculated tool? When suffering isn't accidental, but deliberately created for a specific purpose? Level 5. Instrumental evil. Evil as a means to an end. The philosopher Immanuel Kant argued that humans must always be treated as ends in themselves, never merely as means. But instrumental evil does exactly the opposite. It treats people as objects, as tools, as resources to be used and discarded. Pier Paolo Pasolini's final film, Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom, from 1975, presents this level in its most extreme form. Set in the final days of fascist Italy, 4 powerful men kidnap 18 young people and subject them to months of systematic torture, humiliation, and abuse. Every form of degradation imaginable is inflicted, not out of passion, not even out of hatred, but as an exercise of pure power. The victims are completely dehumanized. They're given numbers instead of names. They're forced to perform acts that destroy their dignity, their identity, their very sense of self. The film is structured like Dante's circles of hell: circle of Manius, circle of excrement, circle of blood, each one worse than the last, each one designed to prove a single point. That power is the only reality, that some people are just things to be used. This is Kant's categorical imperative turned upside down. These 4 men treat humans as pure means, as instruments for their pleasure and their power. There's no goal beyond domination itself. The victims could be anyone. They're interchangeable, replaceable, disposable. What matters is the act of using them, the demonstration of absolute control. Pasolini made this film as an allegory about fascism, capitalism, and any system that reduces people to commodities. That treats human beings as resources to be exploited. That sees suffering as acceptable if it serves a purpose. Whether that purpose is profit, power, or pleasure doesn't matter. The evil is the same, the reduction of a person to a thing. But as horrifying as instrumental evil is, there's something even darker. What if evil doesn't need a purpose at all? What if it exists purely for its own sake? Level 6. Enjoyed evil. Evil that derives pleasure from suffering. Not evil as ignorance. Not evil as justification. Not evil as system or silence or instrument. But evil as pure enjoyment, as an end in itself. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about the will to power, the drive to dominate and destroy as a fundamental human impulse. Enjoyed evil is this impulse unleashed without restraint. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, from 1986, follows a man who kills because he likes it. Henry has no grand philosophy, no justification, no system supporting him. He just enjoys it. Director John McNaughton presents this in the most disturbing way possible. Clinically, coldly, without movie glamour or excitement, Henry kills a shopkeeper, a family, random strangers, sometimes with accomplices, sometimes alone. The most horrifying scene shows Henry and his friend Otis breaking into a home and murdering a family. But we don't see it happen in real time. We watch it on a television screen. Henry has videotaped it. He's playing it back, watching his own crime like it's entertainment, pausing it, rewinding it, savoring it. There's no trauma in Henry's past that explains this. No grand evil plan, no purpose. He just discovered that he likes killing and he's good at it. This is evil without justification. Evil that doesn't pretend to be anything else. Evil that has stopped even trying to make excuses. Nietzsche argued that we hide from the will to power within us, that we create moral systems to restrain our desire to dominate. But Henry has no such restraints. He's embraced that dark impulse completely. And the film refuses to make him fascinating or attractive or compelling. He's banal, empty, a void that consumes others for fleeting satisfaction. This is evil as pleasure, as recreation, as the ultimate expression of freedom from all moral constraints, and it's almost the deepest level, almost, because there's one final descent. Level 7. Metaphysical evil. Evil beyond humanity. evil so complete and total that it transcends individual choice. That becomes cosmic. That makes you question whether God exists or whether God has abandoned us. The Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky wrestled with this question his entire life. How can a just God permit such suffering? Why is God silent? Come and See, directed by Elim Klimov in 1985, is not just a war film. It's a document of absolute horror. A Belarusian boy named Flyora lives through the Nazi occupation. He watches his entire village burned alive. He sees children crucified. He witnesses genocide. The film's title comes from the Book of Revelation. Come and see what happens when evil becomes total, when it swallows everything. The final scene shows Flyora shooting at a portrait of Hitler as archival footage plays backward, as if he could undo history, as if he could reverse time and prevent all the horror. But he can't. It happened. It was real. And no explanation makes sense. No justification exists. No purpose or meaning can be extracted from such absolute suffering. This is evil that has left humanity behind. That has become something else entirely. Metaphysical evil. The evil that makes you question the nature of existence itself. The evil that suggests maybe the universe is fundamentally broken. That maybe suffering is built into the fabric of reality. That maybe God is silent because there is no God. Or worse, because God is watching and choosing not to intervene. Dostoevsky's characters scream at heaven, demanding answers, demanding to know why innocent children suffer, and heaven remains silent. Come and See shows us why, because there is no answer that makes sense, no philosophy that can contain such horror. We've descended beyond human categories into something older and darker. Evil wears many faces. Sometimes it hides behind innocence, justification, or the rules of society. Sometimes it is raw, intentional, and intoxicating. And sometimes it is beyond understanding, a force that reminds us of our fragility and the silence of the universe. Thank you for watching.